What's up, guys? Welcome back to the simulation. So there's a plan with a far-off horizon to one day steal your consciousness. The same people who are crashing the economy, destroying the planet, and turned your bank account into a never-ending list of direct debit subscriptions. They're eventually going to offer you a way out, not by fixing any of it, by uploading you into their machines. At some point in your lifetime, someone is going to try and sell you immortality. Not as a myth, not as a religion, as a product. And if you say yes, you'll be betting your soul that the you that wakes up in their data center is actually you. Think about this. You don't die. Not properly. Instead, beautiful simulated worlds, customizable avatars, your old life, or a new one, rebuilt in 8K with better lighting. And at the bottom of all that, under the soft music and the corporate empathy, there's a checkbox to agree to their terms of service. You'll have the same memories, same personality, the same bad knee, if you want it. So here's the problem. Would it actually be you? Are you actually here? Or did you die? And this is just a very expensive copy that thinks it's you. Would you even be able to tell the difference from the inside? And if your consciousness is running on someone else's hardware, are you sovereign? Or does someone actually own you now? In this episode, we're talking about digital immortality, mind uploading, the idea that one day, instead of dying, you just change the hardware, reconfigure the operating system. And if we ever get there, what does it look like for people like us compared to the elites who are already trying to live forever? First, we've got to clean up the language because upload your mind gets thrown around like it's one thing. It's not. On the cheap end, you've got the griefbot, the AI avatar trained on your text, your emails, photos, your social media profiles. It talks like you, looks like you in VR, but it's not conscious. It's an AI wearing your face. On the hard end, you've got what people really mean by digital immortality, a full conscious transfer. Your inner voice, your sense of I, your memories, your weird intrusive thoughts, everything that makes you you. Picked up, taken out of the flesh, rebooted on a different hardware. Not just a character based on you. You. Just maybe without the soul. So if I can scan your brain, build a perfect digital copy, and then you die or get sick of your life and want to upload into a simulation of your choosing, or reboot yourself back into reality but in a non-biological suitcase for your mind because your actual body was destroyed in a car crash, did you actually survive? Did you actually cheat death? Or did you just die while the copy carries on thinking it won? This idea sits under everything in this episode. It underpins the entire concept. So where are we actually at? Let's be brutally honest. Your brain is not a USB stick. It's about 86 billion little wet computers talking to each other through something like 100 trillion synapses. And all of that is moving and changing all the time. We mapped an entire fruit fly brain, 3,000 neurons. It took years and a stupid amount of compute. For humans, the best we've done is a tiny cube of cortex, about half a grain of rice, and that one fragment clocked in at more than 1 million gigabytes of data. This is incredible, and that's just the wiring. That's the street map. It doesn't even include the traffic. It doesn't capture things like neurotransmitter levels, receptor densities, gene expression, all the chemistry that actually tunes how those neurons fire. So when some startup says, we'll preserve your brain for future upload, what they really mean is we think we can freeze your brain like a high-resolution photograph, and we're just assuming that in 50 or 100 years someone figures out what to do with that file. Right now, as far as we know, nobody knows how to read it, let alone boot it up. Most neuroscientists are pretty blunt about this. The whole human brain emulation is not a tomorrow technology, but AI may make leaps in mapping the human brain, compute power, data storage, and energy solutions that we can't even begin to imagine. In creating AI, we may even learn more about consciousness. After all, the best way to learn something is to tear it down and build it back up again. So at the same time, it may be much closer than we think. Because while we can't take the whole mind out in one go, we're already nibbling at the edges of this. We have started doing something that is leading us in this direction. We're opening ports into the skull and running wires in there like it's just another server. Right now, there are people walking around with real brain-computer interfaces plugged into their heads. A guy with ALS who can't speak, he's got a device connected into his motor cortex, an AI listening to the patterns. When he tries to talk, the system decodes it and speaks for him in a synthetic version of his old voice. He can crack jokes, he can sing. The machine is reading intention straight out of his brain and projecting it into the world. Other teams have implants sitting in the hippocampus, your memory center, recording patterns when you learn, then playing them back later as electrical stimulation. In plain language, a crude memory prosthesis. Record, replay. Your recall improves. Paralyzed patients have driven robotic arms just by thinking about moving their own arm. Some of those arms can even send touch back to the brain so you can feel pressure in the phantom fingers. Neuralink gets all the headlines, but there is a whole ecosystem of companies and labs doing this. Synchron, with stent-based implants, BlackRock, Paradromics, the old BrainGate projects. There are even Chinese labs racing to catch up and overtake, and they're making leaps and bounds in developing this technology. Meta's AI team have done demos where they strap you into a big MEG scanner, show you images, and then use generative models to reconstruct rough pictures straight from your brain activity. It's not perfect, but it's close enough you can see what you were looking at. Other labs using fMRI have gone a step further and started pulling out blurry videos of what you're dreaming or imagining. Again, using diffusion models to turn patterns of blood flow in your brain into moving images. It's clunky science right now. Huge machines, lots of training data. It gives back a fuzzy output, but the direction of travel is obvious. The barrier between what lives in your head and what can be shown on a screen is getting thinner every year. And if they can start pulling rough images out of your head, you know where this goes next. It doesn't stop at reading. It flips. It's not just the overlords quietly watching your brain for non-compliance, like some internal lie detector. It's them being able to literally see what you see in your mind's eye, and then starting to reverse the process. Not just, we noticed you're imagining attending a protest on a specific topic, but here, have a calming branded message beam straight into your visual cortex. Targeted ads you can't look away from because they're not on a screen. They're in your mind. Without a skip button in sight. Do you think YouTube ads are torture to sit through? Imagine political messaging, product placement, dopamine hits, all injected directly into the theater in your mind, where your dreams used to be the last private space you had. So ask yourself, if we can already read your intention to speak, and we can already write simple patterns into your memory circuits, where does that end up in 10 or 20 more iterations? You start with moving a cursor, typing with your thoughts, speaking through an avatar. Then it becomes, let the system help you store and retrieve memories, eventually becoming, let the system nudge your focus, your mood, and your decisions. At what point is that still just a device? And when does it become a co-pilot sitting inside your head? You don't actually need a dramatic sci-fi moment where someone scans your brain and discards the body. You can creep there slowly, one prosthetic at a time, one upgrade at a time. That's one path to uploading, not a jump, but a slow merge, a trickle, cable by cable, straight into your limbic system, until there's nothing human left. And while that's happening, we're also doing this weird rehearsal of digital immortality at low resolution. We already have people talking to AI versions of the dead. You can train a chatbot on someone's old messages, voice notes, videos, and photographs, and get a pretty convincing bot that replies the way they would. There are VR platforms that allow you to record your movements, your speech, your mannerisms, so that when you die, Your family can still visit your avatar in a virtual world. Is it actually you? No, but emotionally, for some people, it scratches the same itch. You can still go and ask Granddad for advice. You can still speak to your partner and hear them say, I love you. Just one more time. Currently, these systems glitch. They make things up. They get the person wrong in ways that feel uncanny. But every year the models get better. The voices get closer to the real thing. We're normalizing the idea that a person doesn't really have to leave us, as long as you've hoarded enough of their data. And somewhere in a boardroom, people are already thinking about how to monetize this long term. Think about this for a moment. Imagine your most productive employees staying on as digital consultants after you fire them to train the AI models you will use to replace them. Imagine celebrities that never age. They never have to stop touring. Imagine your favorite creator is actually a composite model trained on a real human who died 3 years ago and is now just a team of AI ghostwriters. So here's the slippery slope. By the time a real, high-fidelity upload is on the table, a lot of people will already be used to talking to digital versions of the living and the dead. The cultural resistance to living in the cloud, it might be gone. Now let's talk about the people who are not doing any of this for nostalgia or comfort. Our all-powerful ruling elite. The ones who want to live forever and rule over you for just as long. DARPA has been quietly throwing money at brain advancement technology for decades. We can only imagine what's in the Black Book projects, but right now, even the publicly shown stuff is wild. They've funded those prosthetic limbs, the speech implants, the memory work we were discussing. They've literally had volunteers flying fighter jet simulators with their thoughts, controlling multiple planes at the same time. That's just what they show you in the unredacted, publicly released footage. There's US strategy documents now talking openly about the cognitive domain, warfare over perception, decision-making, and attention. The US is sanctioning Chinese institutes for alleged brain control weapons. They're publishing roadmaps about dominating the brain-computer interfaces by 2030. They're calling it a new frontier of competition with the US. So if civilian, medical-grade brain-computer interfaces we see can decode speech and move a robot arm, what does the classified military-grade stuff look like? You can picture a pretty plausible first generation. Soldiers networked, brain-to-brain, sharing situational awareness without radios. Drone swarms steered directly from a commander's central cortex. Sensory overlays fed straight into the visual and auditory cortex. No goggles, no heads-up display. Just information straight into your head. If you can record all of that neural activity, all those decisions and all that experience, do you eventually try and distill it down into a version of your best talent? A super soldier robot trained on all the data of your tier 1 special forces soldiers, your top strategists, your commanders and generals. Even at worst, it's still a ghost strategist that sits in a bunker and plays war games forever. That's not off-the-wall sci-fi. That's just normal AI that's been trained on a creepy data set. If that's Gen 1, you don't have to be very imaginative to see where Generation 2 tries to go. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that we one day crack it. The scanning of the brain, the emulation, copying it, all of it. You can actually lift a mind out of a brain and run it like software on a hard drive. You still have a very practical problem. Where does that mind live? You can't just leave a consciousness entity in a white void with a command prompt for all eternity. We're building metaverse platforms, VR cities, digital workplaces, virtual concerts, game worlds with their own economies and social ladders. They're getting better and better. Some graphic rendering capabilities are getting damn good. Soon, they'll be indistinguishable from a real image or video. Mix AI into that, and it's going to get incredible. But as a skeleton for a virtual civilization, well, it's already here. Now layer future brain-computer interfaces on top of that. Instead of strapping a screen to your face, your implant streams sight, sound, smell, and touch straight into your brain. Your physical body is in a chair, but you feel like you're walking around in a neon city or on a peaceful village or some insane ring world built around an artificial sun. Or, even consider, for the fully uploaded minds, you don't even have the body in the chair. You're just in there. In a boring future where AI and robots have taken all the jobs and a large majority of the population are unable to find meaning or purpose, we would upload ourselves again and again into simulations until the body you have let waste away becomes a representation of a lifelong coma patient, deteriorating further every day, muscles atrophied, skin diseased, bed sores, malnourished. Coming back to reality would be too much rehab and work for the future dopamine-addicted Matrix lovers. So you decide to undergo the transition. You separate your consciousness from your brain and body and discard it. You move your consciousness to exist solely within simulations, reincarnating again and again from one to another, forever. Your reality within the data center, heaven as a service. Sign the terms and conditions. Choose your subscription. This is where we talk about who actually would own you forever. Because let's be real, if you're watching this channel, I'm assuming you're more like me and you're probably not the billionaire building the data center or the brain tech interfaces. If you are, comment down below. I'd love to have a chat. But if uploading ever becomes a consumer product, normal people will get it as a platform. You sign up with Google, AWS, Oracle, Meta, or some future afterlife corp owned by the compute cartel. And your mind runs in their cloud under their terms and conditions. You tick the checkbox on 20 pages of terms you probably didn't read, like we all do now. Except this time you're not giving them permission to read your contacts, your messages, or use your data. You're handing them your literal existence. Can't pay? They throttle your processing power, increase the ads you see, hit you with sponsored experiences just to keep the lights on. Sounds dystopian, but that's literally how we treat our data now. We rent space in other people's machines and hope they don't change the rules. Now flip the script. What does this look like for the people who are actually bankrolling this whole idea? The tech billionaires, the dynastic families, the oligarchs, the Saudi oil tycoons. Do you think they're going to trust their shot at immortality to a public cloud on someone else's balance sheet? Not a chance. If you've got tens or hundreds of billions, or if that's chump change to you, and you seriously believe uploading is possible, you're not clicking accept on some consumer terms of service agreement. You're building your own hardware, underground bunkers full of GPU racks, offshore data centers, space orbiting platforms, in jurisdictions that you either own or heavily influence. Multiple backups for every possible scenario. Immortality, guaranteed for eternity. Your upload doesn't live under a Silicon Valley terms of service agreement. It lives under a private trust, a family charter, or a nation-state legal framework that you wrote. If you're a government, you're not just uploading a random citizen. You're digitizing national assets, generals, analysts, your top scientists, maybe politicians. Those minds become state property, stamped classified, and woven into simulations and defense systems for as long as the power stays on. So you end up with two completely different eternities. One for us, the cloud afterlife, rented from corporations, likely a subscription with a direct debit attachment, governed by whatever neuro rights we managed to negotiate before this all got real. And one for them, the sovereign afterlife, running on hardware they own, under rules they control. Or they don't upload at all. They're still here in base reality, living like kings. Gods even. They update their memory bank each night. If they ever die, they spin themselves back up into a synthetic body within the hour. They exist alongside AI and robotics, making life a utopia you can't even begin to imagine. In a world they curated, full of abundance, for them, at your expense. While they created so much scarcity and an utter dystopia in your reality, that you decided to move into a simulation. As the time passes in your little curated world, they've ruled over you for the last 1,000 years, while you now exist as lines of code on a server that they own. And they become your literal god. Same tech, very different reality. And sitting under all of this is the question that I can't really answer for you. If an uploaded version of you exists, is that legally and morally you? Or just software? If it is you, is deleting it basically murder? We don't have language for this yet, but you can bet that the people with the money and the power are already playing this out, figuring out how to convince you to one day sign away your soul to them. So, let's end this where it started, with you and the choice. If, in your lifetime, someone credible came to you and said, "We can do it," you just go to sleep, you wake up in a digital world, the same memories, the same personality, and you don't have to die. Or we can just upload your consciousness into another body when you do. What do you actually do? Do you sign the form, hope the philosophers are wrong about the copy and upload problem and just jump headfirst into the machine? Do you say no? I'll take the old school route. I'll live, I'll die, and take whatever comes after that. Because by the time it's technically possible, it might not feel like a crazy decision anymore. And that day may arrive sooner than you think. Especially if before these advancements arrive, we make it possible to cure disease and stop aging, or reverse it. If you're alive today, there is a good possibility that you will have to make the decision to finally turn the lights off and see if anything comes next. Or stay here, stripping parts of your biological body out for synthetic parts until there is nothing organic left to die. And if there's nothing left of you to die, nor a world worth existing in, tell me you wouldn't sign off to a simulated utopia, inside living a life where you can feel what it was like to be made of flesh again. In the coming years, if half of your life is already spent in VR, if you use brain-computer interfaces for entertainment, for memory, or maybe even for doing whatever jobs might be left unautomated in the future, if there are any, maybe many of you already live life in a simulation because you couldn't find that meaning and purpose in this one. You know, your kids, the future of our species, are going to grow up talking to AI versions of romantic partners like it's normal. Then living in the cloud might feel less like a leap of faith and more like the obvious upgrade. And here's another uncomfortable idea that I'll leave you with. If advanced civilizations can upload minds and run entire simulated worlds, what are the odds we aren't already inside one? Why are we so sure that we're the first ones to do it? What makes you think you wouldn't have chosen to not know that you're inside the simulation after you get uploaded to it? Somewhere down the line, someone's already hit go on that experiment. Maybe in another corner of the universe, maybe the future version of us. Maybe that's what you are right now. Which means the odds aren't great that you're the original meat sack sitting here wondering if this is base reality. Maybe it's a training simulation your future self has booted 1,000 times. Maybe you chose to come here. Maybe there's a point to it. So when we are talking about uploading consciousness, are we actually escaping death? Or just moving from a server inside some tech overlord's data center into a cloud that's still running on the same hardware? You think that you've escaped death, but really, you've just ended up one layer deeper inside a possible tower of realities, all nested within each other, each thinking they are the real one. So let me leave you with this. If they spend your whole life breaking the world and then sell you a neat little utopian simulation as the exit, as a last act of freedom, will you really hand them your digital consciousness on the way out? Or will you look death in the face and leave this place like every living thing that's ever come before you and see what's on the other side? If you made it this far, thanks for hanging out and watching. It means so much to me. I had so much fun doing this one. If you thought it was interesting, if you had fun, if you'd like to see more, like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for the next episode where I'll bring you more weird ideas like this. And remember, stay curious, and question everything.